world-class standard school with the most qualified teachers that will turn your child into a world changer. We have a fully stocked library, a balanced diet for the children, a calm environment suitable for learning, and pocket-friendly school fees. Registration for P1 to P6 is ongoing, and second term is starting on 6th April 2021. Call us on 0774 950 277 or 0705 861 262 for more information. Cleveland Hill Day and Boarding Primary School. The Lord is my shepherd.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra, sponsored by
Cleveland Hill Day and Boarding Primary School. The Lord is my shepherd.
Well, thank you so much. We continue our discussion, of course, in our next hour here. We talk about Pan-African Friday today, and of course, thanking Cleveland Hill Junior Day and Boarding Primary School in Chevando Chisalo for being with us this morning. Now, we move our discussion to the issue and the situation in Chad. And of course, a very bold question that we ask: what next for this country called Chad after the death of President Idris Deby? Now, lots of questions are coming in, of course, and the debate is raging to really ascertain and find out whether it is possible that in 2021, a world leader at a stature of President Idris Deby can actually be shot and dies at the front line, like we hear news coming in through from what is happening. And of course, looking at him there, not so old, not so young, and just 68 years of age, a man who has been a darling, of course, of especially France, and you know, a man who has managed that country for a whopping 3 decades, just dying like that. And you don't hear so many people take the credit of actually seeing him dead. Now, Idris Deby will be buried today. He will be buried today, and so far, a few presidents jetted into the country yesterday. We yet to see and find out, we'll look at the list here to see how many foreign presidents have gone for that burial of Chad, the strong man who is a normal. I'll start with you, Nduguru Garama. Let's get to Chad and ask or answer these questions that everybody is asking, whether truly a man like Idris Deby can just die the way he died.
First of all, I sympathize with the people of Chad and Africa as a whole for the loss of their president. At the same time, I cast a lot of doubts about the circumstances under which Comrade Idris died. I would have expected, like we were discussing in the break here, that the Concord, for instance, and the other rebel group who had captured the northern garrisons would come up and claim that they have accomplished the job.
Like terrorists normally do.
Absolutely.
When anything happens, they say, we may not be responsible, but we are happy about what has happened,
because
or we take responsibility.
Thank you. Because these guys had actually captured territory, but they have not done that. Meaning that actually, there is a very great possibility that they didn't have a hand in his death. 2, the internal events so far indicate that there was a hand of an insider in the death of Comrade Idris. If that is the case, therefore, the question is, why would anybody inside want the president dead immediately after winning an election? It pushes us to a level where we start questioning as to whether there is no external hand. I can tell a ripe banana from a distance by the aroma. We know how the white man has behaved on the African continent. We know how they eliminate the African leaders in a concealed manner. I am not pointing any finger yet, but the blackest spot of an African man enables him to see more clearly. I can prophesy going forward that somebody used an insider to eliminate the president for purposes of creating instability in that country after using Dabi for over 30 years to achieve the interests that probably now he had gone to a level whereby there were doubting as to whether he will continue to deliver as promised. We all know that majority of West Africa had adopted the eco currency. Nigeria was supposed to be a member, and a big member at that, although it is not necessarily West Africa, if you like, and not necessarily French anyway. It is not. But France immediately came in and ensured that Nigeria does not become an eco-currency member. The version of the currency that was introduced with the participation of France, the voices that were coming from members of the now eco-currency, Chad inclusive, were indicative of the dissenting, condescending voice that we are watching you. Therefore, anybody who comes up and says, wait a minute, there is something about the death of the president. And by the way, just before I forget, there have been episodes, leave around the rebels, who are these guys in Nigeria? The Boko Haram. The Boko Haram. Leave around the Boko Haram. Because the Boko Haram is also a creation. And next time, maybe we shall debate it here. But recently there were uprisings in Nigeria. Very serious ones. And they are also a signal. And those ones came immediately when Nigeria expressed interest in joining the eco currency and directive. Because it is a relatively bigger economy, it can have, if it had been allowed, it was going to have massive impact on the nature of the eco currency. That is not a simple matter. Therefore, going forward, the entire West Africa, and Chad in particular, that we are looking at now, is headed unless the African Union comes in strongly and ECOWAS come in strongly to ensure that they put a halt, and they have done it before, especially ECOWAS, they have done it before. I hope this time they move in very fast and halt the ugly events unfolding in Chad. Short of that, we are going to have another failed state, which is going to be a pride of the enemy to project us as a failed continent.
Thank you so much, Nduguru Garama. Mututa, I'll come to you. Now, look at this country called Chad, nestled in between countries like Cameroon. You have Niger, you have Nigeria, you have Central African Republic, you have you know, Libya and all these other, Sudan. Many of these countries are now also riddled by you know, terrorism groups and conflicts and, you know, stuff like that. And you know, he had distinguished himself. Dabi Adakwe had distinguished himself as this man in the region, of course, who would also help in brokering peace, especially to these former colonies of France and in a way. And his death actually had a Paris more, I think, than the other powers. What do you think is next for this country called Chad in the wake of what happened to them and in a manner in which Dabi died on the front line, something that is not even thinkable or something that you cannot think about in this era today?
Of course, unfortunate for Chad because this one country which in that area has been actually a stabilizing effort. When you look at the neighboring countries of Nigeria with Boko Haram and Niger.
You have Libya, which is not settling. You have Central African Republic, which is also riddled with a number of things.
So he was looked at as a man who was the pillar when it came to stability of that same region. But like he put it, I think sometimes if we were to have our friends as Africans, let's have our friends right. Although Dabi has been also a product of conflict and confrontation.
Sure. That's how he came.
Yes, he came to power after an overthrow of a government.
Habre.
And Dabre, but also Chad had its own bad history, also like many of us, the African countries. They assassinated the first president, and part of the assassination was also, up to now, questionable. But that notwithstanding, you look at a country which is trying to stabilize. Now, it is history also, like we noted earlier, that there's been a rift that has been demarcated between the two groups. The south, which seem to be more settled, the farmers, because the place has the fertile soils, has the Lake Chad. Now, the north is of the wandering type, people who are moving with their animals, but also doing business. But also, you look at the neighboring in the north, where you have the instability in Libya, which splashes down into the Chad. But that place also has been having its own dynamics. When Dabi was a president, he had issues with the Sudan and the Darfur area, that you had people who were rebels in the Darfur area against Sudan, and it is also suspected that they were being supported by Chad. So Sudan also had to support the rebels in the north of Chad, as also to neutralize the advancing of and the development of the conflict there. But of course, over time, those peace efforts were made, and their differences were mended. But when you are looking at Chad, you're also looking at Sudan, and you're also looking at Libya, and you definitely, that problem comes back to the Horn of Africa. The arms that are being delivered to this area and the rest of Africa from the pirates, the efforts of the enemies of Africa who are using this instability to fund the fighting groups up to Congo. This is the major route for these arms. And the funding is such that when these areas are destabilized, of course, Chad is one country which is producing oil. I think for the last now 10 years they have been producing oil. But when you look at the life of people in Chad, and I think we'll have some pictures on projected, the poverty which is there, you can't believe that these people are producing oil. In other words, where is this oil going? So it is also possible that the President Deby has been used by the enemies of Chad and the enemies of Africa. And time has come when they realize, I think he's becoming not necessary. And they needed someone else who can be used. And that is the painful part of Africa. Why are we allowing ourselves to be used so? One reason is because the weak leaders who cannot have the capacity to be leaders, they were looking for alliances with the people who will facilitate them to kill their own people, give them arms, tarnish the names of the leaders, and force these people onto their populations so that they will continue benefiting from the resources of Africa. There is no war in this world that Africa has not participated in. But even yesterday I heard someone was saying that the Commonwealth soldiers who have been fighting wars have never been recognized because of the racist factor. You remember the other time French, for the people who fought in the Second World War, when they were about to win the war, they shipped them back to Africa, and most of them were killed when they asked for their payment. So Africa is a country, even if it is a country, we can say, is big enough. Of course, it's bigger than America, it's bigger than Russia, it's bigger than China. But the problem is that we are not looking at things that are common about us. The advantages that we have against the rest of the world. Everyone is coming to Africa because of the resources, and God put it so that we have these resources, but they're also becoming now a problem to us. The oil cost they talk about. Why is it whenever there is oil, even when people are manufacturing cars that does not need oil, we still have issues of oil? So the problem is foreign, fine, but the biggest problem are the agents of the foreign enemies who we have in these countries. Because if Africa sat down and say, I think enough is enough, for once, let's work for our people, let's work for ourselves, we would be doing much, much better than what we are doing today. The other time we were asking here a question, that, and for me, I said it openly, that I have remorse, of course, for people dying, but if you are going to run away from home, to go and die on the waters trying to go to Europe where things are good, which even are not good anyway, I think you are a coward. And even if you died that cowardly death, you are supposed to die anyway. Because if we put the same efforts back home, say, if it is a bad leadership, let's fight from home. If it is famine, let's try to have our own food. If it is poverty, let's try to work. Those guys have nothing that we don't have. In fact, they don't have anything that we have. But Africa, we are giving ourselves too much, we are ceding too much that we have to the forces that are against us. This country, Chad, when you look at Chad, Chad is not a very poor country, given the resources. And what you see, but you know, the other mistake that the President Deby was making was, I think, was forgetting how he came. And this has been happening apparently to most of these people who have come to power sometimes after struggling. Last time we were talking about Bagbo, that a man comes in and he becomes a problem. Even when he's also overthrown. Nani also, Quattara also comes in and wants to behave even worse
than the man he
found. So I think we at one point we said that we need to have a classroom or something kind of where African leaders should be trained, that they know that we are Africans because we are Africans, and we need to make Africa a better place for us because we don't have another place to go. We have been running our way around, and you see, last week they were talking, I think the biggest story in the Western media was the killing of Ford. But how many? Because there is a deliberate of the white supremacists to ensure that all young men in America and Europe are killed. because the fear is that if you don't kill these guys, tomorrow they are going to displace us.
Okay.
Because they are resilient, they are hardworking, and they are brave. So if you don't get them rid of them today, you are not going to have a country in the future. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
You shared last time what happened to the South Americans, how they treated the slaves after the slave trade collapsed. Most of them were sent on the front lines and were killed. Some of them had to generate diseases that would kill them. We recently saw how they generated, even they brought AIDS in Africa and in South Africa and many other countries, of course, that we don't know of. So here we were talking about, last time we were talking about vaccines. We said if there are these discrepancies, these disagreements about the type of vaccines that we need to use as Africans, why can't we have our own CDC of
African
Africa?
CDC. We
Exactly.
actually have it.
Yes.
The African CDC.
And so
to
why,
give us a solution.
yes, so why can't we have these solutions done in the African way to ensure that whatever comes to Africa, in fact, as we speak today, and I think we shall have a day for another discussion, we have dangerous medicines and drugs in Africa that have been outlawed all over, but they are here, and they are being brought by our own people. So the problem, much as we have enemies, but the people, the agents of Africa, of these enemies in Africa, are the ones who are responsible for all these problems. Okay. It is not because our leaders are overstaying. Of course, overstaying is bad enough, but it is because those people have an agenda, and we don't have to fit in this agenda. Okay. We still can have our own way of doing our things without having to play to the agenda of the West. Okay. They are not the total problem. Actually, the bigger problem starts with us.
Hold it there. Let me bring in a call here to look at the script in Chad and the script in the DRC. Isn't this what happened to the late Laura Desire Kabila in the DRC? And of course, where we see Chad moving thereafter, because yes, their strongman has gone, and the issues and the problems there you can actually see. We can try to look through the script and say, now, where is it going to end? The military, of course, comes in. There are quite a number of things. The shooting is too much. The situation is actually very uncertain in Chad. Today, Dabi will be buried, and of course, Hayati Basi, and we'll just remember him as one who was there. But looking at Chad, from this day going forward, after Idris Dabi.
Yeah, actually the situation is very much similar to
the
DRC when Laura Desire Kabila. Perhaps the only difference is that with the Kabila, they managed to hide for a month because they managed to hide that he's still alive. Yet actually he was dead. But to the situation in Chad, actually, they came out immediately.
Sure, and said, he succumbed to a few gun shots and you know some bullet wounds. Just like that.
That is the only, and the other similarities, of course, the sons. Actually, we saw Joseph Kabila from nowhere, who was not in the ranks of government,
and Mahama
taking over. Now this is Mahamat, taking over from the father. But again, this also gives us a very big pointer, because I don't know why good governance and democracy has eluded the Francophone Africa. At least when you look at the Anglophone Africa, at least they are trying. But when it comes to Francophone, when you look at the nature of the elections, when you look at the way they are being governed, when you look at service delivery, you really see that there is a very, very big one. There is a very big problem. But now, this particular issue with Chad, you know, Chad has a very, very complex history. You see, you have a tribe called the Sara people that constitute 30% of the population, but highly marginalized. Second, you have the Arabs. Now, Arabs, wherever they are in Africa, they have that sense of entitlement. I don't know where they get it from. That even some of us who have been with them in conferences abroad, they will even ask you, how is Africa? Like the one time we're having...
They don't want to trash Africa.
We're having a boat cruise on the Bosphorus Strait. And we had some Arabs, and they were like, how is Africa? So when I asked, where do you come from? Somebody was telling me, I'm from Tunisia. And I was like, wow. So Arabs, wherever they have that exaggerated sense of entitlement. That's also now the conflict. They are part of that conflict because they are going to unite with. No wonder the Concord, actually, their base was in Libya. Because these are Arabs. These are Arabs. So they're teaming up with their cousins in Libya, in Sudan to come, and because they have that sense of entitlement, they feel they should be now leading. Now, when you come to Idris, his own tribe actually is just about 1.5% of the population, a minority. But he has managed to be in power for the 3 decades and riding on Islam or religion. Because ideally, when you look at their first president, when he was assassinated, that was the starting point of the tribal, of the religious conflict, the Christians and the Muslims. And as Comrade Rugarama put it, these are things. It is a script that is written somewhere else and implemented on the African continent. I think the biggest challenge Chad is facing, and which is also similar to the rest of Africa, is having a leadership and having a population that is not conscious of who exactly they are, who are their enemies, and where they are heading to. Now, this, when it comes to Idris, I think Idris, in the last 10 years, 10 or so years, the very forces that have made him, sustained him in power, were silently fighting him. Idris had a son called Ibrahim. Ibrahim was one of the 2 sons. Actually, you know, he has so many children, but he had 2, Muhammad and Ibrahim. Of the 2 sons, he had preferred that it is Ibrahim who was actually meant to succeed him, that even sent him to Canada to go and study. When he came back from his studies, came back to Chad, he even appointed him his presidential advisor and made it clear to the military council that in case of anything, this is my hair. It's somebody I'm grooming to take over. Then the son went to France. When he went to France, then the stupid allegation started that he was caught with drugs, he was imprisoned, then sent back to his country. When he was sent back to his country, the father said he had embarrassed the Chad. He actually also sacked him as advisor. Sometime later, he went back to France and he was found dead in his garage. So you can see that now the very forces that actually have helped him sustain power are the very forces that really were fighting him in one way or the other. Now, the situation in Chad is so alarming that one is that the fact that there is now a curfew and they have locked the borders, it means that there is a lot that is going on which the world is actually not seeing. There's a lot that is going on that the world. And the other issue that also makes the already bad situation worse, because what is happening there is more or less a military coup. Because the constitution is very clear that after an election, the event somebody dies immediately after an election, before the speaker. But now parliament has been dissolved, government has been dissolved. So it's actually what is happening there is now more of a coup. Now you have 2 issues. You have the loss of the president and now a coup. And we wait to see how ECOWAS is going to respond to this. We wait to see how African Union is actually going to respond to this, because this is not the right time. The ECOWAS should be coming in, because you have almost a third of the country being taken over by the rebels, and now even in the capital you are not safe. Okay. Even the majority, the Southerners, because now ideally this young man, Muhammad, I think he is between a hard place and a rock. Because the South that would be supporting him is predominantly Christian, that has been marginalized for the last 3 decades. Now the particular part of the country felt that yes, that would be supporting him is the country that now is the part that is being funded to fight against him.
Okay. Yes. Ndugu Rugarama, let me come in here, or rather bring you in on the same, picking it up from Samai is saying, we have the religious issue here of the Muslims and the Christians. But of course, when you look at the issues happening in Chad, these seismic events are more of domestic affairs. But yet again, why do you think they actually now leave the jihadist groups that are there? Because that's also, because Debi had actually distinguished himself as you know, one man who could manage these situations and scenarios. But why do you think it actually now leaves the jihadists who dominate the region? Talking about the Muslims and the Christians, it's the same story when you come to CAR, the Central African Republic, where you also have that entitlement of, for example, the Christians there do even actually believe and assert that the Virgin Mary was actually born in Chad, rather in Central African Republic. So if you bring in anything that is not Catholicism or Christianity, is they feel it's actually an abomination, because how do you come and you're not a Catholic, you're not a Christian, to the home or the birthplace of the Virgin Mary and actually assert yourself in there? Looking at the issues, which seem to be domestic, but where do they leave the jihadist groups in the region?
What you see in Chad, what we have been seeing in Chad over the years is not a different story from what happens in majority of the African countries. After colonialism, when the white man was leaving, he ensured that he left a state that was very fragile and not meant to succeed. It is the same reason why we have the situation we have in Cameroon. When you hear the Cameroon South and the Cameroon North and the death of so many of the natives in the southern part, simply because the other half speaks French, the other half speaks English, and the word is closed. They do not talk about it. I mean, how much have you heard of that, for instance, in the media? When you go to Nigeria, the Igbos and the Fulani is the same story. You get the Fulani who are less educated, and the Igbos who were empowered, given education, and they are the ones in government and the ones in business. The other one is almost a less forgotten society, although they carried out what I would call a very good system that we rotate the presidency. Had they not done that, I don't know where they would be now. And I hope they keep improving. Otherwise, they will also run into great trouble. Now, in Chad, what my brother, Comrade Akoro, was talking about, this sense of entitlement is not inborn. No, they created a sense of entitlement in Rwanda here. This genocide you see was a long cultivated practice by the white man who was a colonizer, that you, the section of people, you are actually better than this section of people, and you are meant to rule. Now, when you constantly deceive somebody, it is said that a lie constantly told over and over again becomes truth. And it is very hard to take it away from somebody who has already bought it. Now, what we are having in majority Africa are lies that the Chukuyu in Kenya, for instance, are meant to be leaders. The other rest of the tribes are supposed to follow the leadership of the Chukuyus. And from there, you keep experiencing the ethnic clashes and the death that we have witnessed over a number of years in Kenya. The same stuff is happening in Chad. This time around, we are worried that the southern part, which is predominantly Christian, because now it is going to be, it is going to be tribal, then at the same time, the element of religion will come in. I want the statistics of Christians and Muslims in Chad. Which one is bigger than the other?
Actually, the Christians are 44%.
There you go. Now, if they were to follow that, you would get a situation whereby a country gets polarized. Now, when you get the polarization and that paralysis, then you reach the extent of a failed state. Now, I want to submit to viewers that it is high time Africa as a continent realized that there is something greater than religion, because this religion is not ours. If religion is not going to unify us, and see, it baffles me that even in our recently concluded elections here, and we have even known it before, here in Uganda, there were allegations of tribalism, religious differences being spewed out, so much so that the voting patterns were actually following that kind of sequence. Now, this is a very big problem. And this is what we have been fighting in the Pan-African movement. Maybe we need to double our efforts, because the situation in Chad, the situation in majority of Africa is not going to improve, not until we thumb and kill the extremism in religion and the tribal sentiments.
Very good. Now, we just saw a pie chart here, of course, detailing to us the statistics there of the affiliation, the religious affiliations in Chad. And you can notice that you have half of the country is actually a Muslim. Half of the country is Muslim. The others, of course, looking at them, they're almost in equal portions, the Anglicans and the Protestants rather than the Catholics, as you can actually see just right there in those percentages. But talking about the jihadists, of course, in Ndugu Mtuta, I want you to pick it up from here. The jihadists who have dominated this region, and yet Dabi had actually distinguished himself as one who was actually there to repulse and to ensure that they did not excel or do all those. And maybe your final submission, because our time is running out, I also want you to talk about what I call just submitted on. The Constitution is actually very clear. Their speaker is actually referred to as the President of the National Assembly. But he also came out to actually say he supported the idea of bypassing him to actually have a military council, a transitional military council coming on.
In what state was he when
but of course, yes, that's what we're saying. That's, you know, what does also mean that when he also comes out to say, I buy the idea of bypassing me to actually give it to somebody else. On those two issues, finally, as we run out of studios, because we have just about 5 minutes to be out of here.
Yeah, first of all, I think the issue of the Constitution, it was unfortunate because they could still have declared a state of emergency with the speaker in the seat as the acting president until the elections are held. But anyway, that's what he said. I think there was better to be that. But at the same time, when you are looking at that, you know, the North, the Christian North, has really been marginalized for long. But they also, what empowers the South, the Christian South, is that when they started producing, you know, cotton was the biggest crop in Chad. They got the power. That from independence they had been so much marginalized from the northerners. Now the irony is that the northern Today, the President Dabi was a president from the northern but even with that, you realize that he has opposition from north, because the opposition he's having today is not from the south, it's from the north. His home people, and the leader, most of the leaders of these fighting groups are his colleagues with whom they have worked together. Part of the reason they broke from him is when he started changing the constitution, changing the term limits, but also giving himself a lot of power. So that's why he fell out with most of the people. Now the problem they have is you have the northerners fighting themselves, but also given the information we got, that already there is a cleanup in the army. You have an advancing enemy, but you're also busy killing yourselves. Internally.
You're also sorting out the issues in the house. You're cleaning the house while having some...
Yes. So I think this was the time for them now to consolidate, to say the president has died. How he died is now not the problem. Let's first stabilize the country, and then we can get back to find out who did what, and then they could do that. But again, this fundamentalism and religious extremism is also becoming a problem across the whole of this area. And of course, the President Dabi himself, having been part of the fighting group, he was also supported by Libya. Actually, Libya had a lot of influence. Up to today, has a lot of influence, we can say, in Chad. And because of the problems of Libya, now the cousins in Chad and Libya are working together to ensure that they have a lot of power in Chad. But at the same time, the colonizers are also trying to weigh in to ensure that they don't lose out on the next bite, so that the next person coming in the leadership will also have to subscribe to the interest of the colonialists, which is also very unfortunate. But I think the most important thing is now to see, and which Africans are looking forward, is what African Union does in this particular situation. How is the union, the African Union administration going to intervene? Because last time we realized that a lot has been happening in Libya, but the African Union was put on the edge, and was now consulting the crisis group, having meetings elsewhere to sort issues of Africa. So I think also the leadership at the African Union needs to take issues of Africa seriously, and also take charge of issues in Africa, so that if friends are coming to help us, they need to find us working. If we don't do that, then we are going to allow a lot of influence come in, and people are going to sort African issues in the boardrooms in the Western capitals, but the interests are not going to disappear as we speak. So it is also high time that African leadership takes charge of the African issues.
Your parting shots, Ndugwa, call, because our time is running out. We have a few minutes, in just 2 minutes before you get out of the studios.
My parting shot is that whatever the Speaker of Chad is actually saying is unbelievable, because it reminds me of the resignation speech of Mugabe, because the words and the body language were not actually. So I just want to see a clip of how the Speaker was saying that he actually supports.
It's okay. It bypassed me.
So that is my parting shot. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you so much. It's also believed and say that the French President, President Emmanuel Macron, is poised to also attend the burial of Charles Strongman, now gone, President Idris Deby. But of course, a few presidents on the continent have gone to attend the burial of Idris Deby. Now, we wait to see, and of course, following up on the trends. We here at the Pan-African Friday will continue following the events as they continue unfolding, and we see what the week looks like and how it actually unfolds. And we promise that if nothing changes much, then we might carry on and continue with the discussion next week on Friday, talk about the issues in Chad. We're just waiting to see what happens next after the burial of President Idris Deby today. What happens, and of course we wait to see how the military council, how the opposition in there, and lots of things continuing to happen. We want to see how the script plays out. But of course, thanking the guest in studios, Ndugu Dan Rugarama, the chairman for the Pan-African Movement Uganda chapter. Again, thank you so much for having allowed to spare your time and join us here on the Pan-African Friday. We thank you so much, and we pray that next time we give you an invitation to still come back and talk about issues of Africa, you will be available. We thank you so much. Thank you, Ndugu Mututa. For of course your contribution usually on the Pan-African Friday, and Ndugu call here. We also thank you so much, and of course we take the opportunity to also thank our sponsors, Cleveland Hill Day and Boarding Primary School in Chevando Salo. Thank you so much, and of course thanking management for the extension of this extra hour that they gave us from the traditional original 10 o'clock now to 11 o'clock, and of course all our viewers in the Caribbean, in the US. Well, everywhere, and of course at the embassy in Addis Ababa. The ambassador there has been watching, and of course been with us, Mama Rebecca Amogotengo, and yes, they're following in Kinshasa, and of course elsewhere on the continent of Africa. My name is Jagenda Samakola Sok. On behalf of the team here on the Pan-African Friday, we thank you so much, and of course thanking so much our backroom staff, our producer, and of course the people who have made this happen. We thank you so much. Until next week on Friday, for God and my country, stay blessed. We meet again. Good morning and bye-bye.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra. Sponsored by
Cleveland Hill Day and Boarding Primary School. The Lord is my shepherd. Introducing Cleveland Hill Day and Boarding Primary School, located in Chevando, Chisalo along Bukoto Roundabout, 2 kilometers from Kalere at the Northern Bypass on your way to Chisasi. This is a world-class standard school with the most qualified teachers that will turn your child into a world changer. We have a fully stocked library, a balanced